Today I'm going to talk about Nusfjord, who I'm sure I'm mispronouncing, the new game from Uwe Rosenberg. I played it for the first time the other day, had a lot of fun with it. I was surprised and delighted that I could play a Euro game where you're starting from nothing and building up to something very big in... Our game was 90 minutes, 4-player game, 90 minutes learning game, so I'm guessing a real game would take 60 to 75 minutes. That's great. That's a great fit for a Euro game of this quality. I have two mechanisms that I want to talk about. The first is, my photo doesn't do it all that justice, but there's this track at the bottom where you're tracking how many fish you're catching each round. There are lots of different ways that Uwe Rosenberg could have visually conveyed the number of fish, and you can't see it. It's right here, under here. There's a number. I think right here probably says 7 or 8, and it's that number that's that number of fish that I'll catch because I've filled up part of this row with ships. So I've covered these slots with ships where I'm catching fewer fish, and now I get to catch this many fish. There are a couple of reasons why I really like this. And first, I think it's because he could have just made this a basic track where you're moving like a little cube forward to show how many fish you're catching. But instead, he has these nice big fishing boat tiles, and there are 3 different tile types that you can buy, each one a little bit bigger than the next, and each one worth more points than the next at the end of the game. Each one also costs more. So you have this decision really early on in the game and throughout the game. Do I spend a little bit of resources to buy a small ship and increase my income, my fish income slowly? Or do I try to jump forward like I did in the first round? I was able to buy the biggest ship and jump forward with my income very, very quickly as a result. And I kept on going. These were worth more points, so I think I only built this type of ship throughout the game. But I liked that there was a physical tile instead of just a token, and that tile, it looked good on the mat. It looked like I had these boats that I was gathering, and I didn't need miniatures or anything like that. It just looked nice as a tile to show the boats that I had. But it also had, you could print different costs on them and different benefits since they are using tiles instead of a little token for the track. And last, just the visual of easily being able to look down here and saying, okay, this is the amount of income that I'm gaining this round. That was really nice too. Of course, you would get that from any track, but because I'm covering up the other numbers, there's absolutely no confusion there. So I really like that mechanism. That's almost more of a graphic design illustrative element, or visual element, but I really did like it. The other part are the elders in the game. And I've been thinking about this because at first glance, the elders essentially just add private action spaces to your mat, which we've seen in many games. I've had those in my games. We've seen them in many different Euro games. That in itself isn't all that unique, although the actions are pretty interesting the way Uwe does them. The difference here, the really, really interesting thing, is that when you gain an elder, so when you gain this person that you're using to add an action to your board, you don't pay anything. And I hope I'm saying that correctly because we had a little confusion about exactly when to use them, but I'm almost positive that when you gain an elder, you don't pay anything. You can activate it right away by using a fish from the common table on the board. That's a whole other mechanism that I won't go into. But you don't have to activate it. You can just gain it for free. You can use an action so essentially you're just spending an action to get an elder. No cost up front, but throughout the game, because that elder is essentially at your table or in your Nusfjord, whatever that means, for the rest of the game, you have to feed them. So for the rest of the game, whenever you catch fish, your income every round, you have to put a fish on each of your elders that you have. So I really like this twist of you're doing a powerful thing. You're gaining an action that you get to use for the rest of the game. It's a very, very powerful thing. But, and you don't have to pay anything for it, but it impacts your income for the rest of the game. You're paying out that cost for the rest of the game. And it has this much more thematic feel to it rather than like hiring an elder or using an abstract influence mechanism to get an elder. Instead, you're just keeping them fed for the rest of the game. I really, really like that. I don't know if you've seen that in other games, things where you gain an action now completely for free, but it impacts your income or some other element for the rest of the game. And it doesn't feel like a punishment or a penalty. Sometimes it can feel like that where you're like penalized for having this additional thing. In this case, it just feels natural. Okay, I've got all this fish coming in. I have to put a few of them down on these elders. That's just what I have to do. He's created a nice feeling here where it doesn't feel punishing to have those elders. You can see them kind of at the top of the mat here. These are my elders. I had a bunch of them. Those are my favorite elements, my favorite mechanisms in Nusfjord. If you have a favorite element that you want to discuss in this game, or if this triggers something that makes you think of another game mechanism and another game that this reminds you of, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Thanks.